Monster Energy is set to release a new female-focused energy drink called Flirt. Why are we needlessly gendering soft drinks and energy drinks? It's so unnecessary. So it's like Monster Energy is already female-focused energy drink. A common thing that I get hit with is like the, oh, being a man was too tough for you. You didn't learn how to man up. You didn't have like a good father figure who taught you how to be a real man. And then they're just like some loser, but they're like, well, I have to endure this because I'm a man. I have to like certain things because I'm a man, and that's what men like. And it's just like what random people tell them what they have to do based on their anatomy. So if I may open paint for a second, you know, this is you. You have tiny arms, and people initially, you know, give you the label boy, and you have to like boy toys, right? You gotta like the color blue. So that is your color. This is your section. Any toy needs the color blue, right? You cannot like the color pink because that's the girl color. That's for girls. That's a no-no. You gotta like develop a fear of being seen with like pink or whatnot. You could never wear like a pink backpack because like that's for girls. And other guys will make fun of you because it's a girl color. Like boy toys. No, that's not what I mean. Like race cars and stuff. That's what you should like. You gotta be into cars, right? Amazing car. Dream car, by the way. You gotta be outdoorsy, right? So you have like a bicycle. You go outside. You play sports. You have to like the guy sports. That's supposed to be a football, but it's more like a frisbee. Which, you know, fair enough. Even like like Lego, right? Lego, that's for boys. Only boys. They're builders. They're the architects. So people tell you, okay, you're a boy, you like boy stuff, you do boy things, you behave like a boy, you're being socialized as a boy, and you learn what you need to do in order to be perceived as a boy, right? If you have long hair, you gotta cut them short because people mistake you for a girl, and that is insulting for a boy, right? It's degrading for a boy to be called a girl. When you get older, then people are telling you how to be a man. You can't be a boy anymore. You have to man up. You can't be crying. That's for girls. So no more crying. That's bad. No more emotions. Only anger. Anger is allowed. You can be angry. You can punch holes in the wall. You gotta bottle your emotions up. You gotta keep everything to yourself. So this is how to be a man. You gotta pull yourself up on your bootstraps. Something that is like physically impossible. You can't ask for directions. You can't read a manual. Reading a manual, like looking at instruction, like that is bad. That's what women do. Women are the ones who like ask for directions if they get lost. You are a man, you gotta figure it out on your own. So you learn how to basically like earn yourself the label to be called a man. You know, you basically learn how to pretend. You learn the costume that you're wearing, right? In order to fit in with society, these are the things that you need to fulfill in order to not suffer the consequences of, I don't know, being perceived as a gay man, being perceived as like a feminine man or whatnot. The same goes for the label girl. Instead of being outdoorsy, you gotta stay inside, you gotta learn how to cook, you gotta learn how to be a proper wife, you're going to play with dolls because you're going to grow up and you gotta take care of the little ones, so you gotta socialize them as early as possible and groom them and indoctrinate them to gaslight them into believing that, you know, you are only good for like taking care of like a baby. You know, you get your little kitchen, you have your dollhouse where you can play a stay-at-home mom or something. I don't know. Like that's kind of like how it works when it comes to socializing girls. And it is just literally a costume that you learn how to wear, which is like really interesting because like as a trans woman, I was always pretending to just be a man. I was really emotional as a kid. I got told, you know, I shouldn't be doing that because, you know, that's for girls, right? Like that is always like the insult that I get. I was always being called a girl in order to be invalidated and whatnot until I came out as one, but that's a different story. I was always like the shoulder to cry on. I was like the one who was listening, but anytime I was trying to open up, I, you know, got pushback. I didn't thirst after girls. I didn't stare at their butt and, I don't know, talk with the other guys about women in that way. So I was always like not really fitting in because that's what guys do, right? I was in university and I was like walking around with a group of guys and there was a pretty woman and, all of them were like turning around and whatnot. And I had one of my guy friends turn around and be like, how come, when we see pretty women, you don't look after them? It's like, is that like the normal response? You always gotta do this? Like, it's weird for me to not stare at the butt of women? Are we for real? So I was like, I don't give a f I don't care. Women pretty. I know. I get it. For me, obviously, I had like gender envy and like gender dysphoria and whatnot. But like, even as a boy, like, I got late into puberty actually. And my voice didn't drop until like 15, 16, actually, right? My brother, my classmates and whatnot, they bullied me for the fact of like me having like a higher pitched voice. That was like always like a thing. And when I started playing games, when I got into like online gaming, I was like always kind of scared of speaking and being perceived as a woman. So I like started forcing my voice deeper, which created like really bad habits and whatnot. And I knew I was just pretending, right? When it comes to like being a man, I was just pretending. And I think it's like a common thing when it comes to like even cis people. They have like these gender norms forced upon them, and a lot of them are not neurodivergent, but they're neurotypical. So they just like, I don't know, they just like learn to accept that this is their place in society. In order to fit in, this is what they have to do. Which is like causing a lot of issues when it comes to like people invalidating trans people. It's just like, oh, you're just a tomboy, you're just a femboy or whatnot. A lot of women used to be outdoorsy as well. That doesn't make them boys. Which is like, yeah, that's true. But that's, it's not entirely like the conversation that we're having. We're not just talking about like gender and like the socially constructed thing about it, but also like how it resonates with your gender identity and like with your own sense of self and with your own place in society and how you fit in, how you belong. And there's like some biological component to it as well. I think that like if gender wasn't a thing, like if we didn't have like the sociological idea of like this is for men, this is for women, people would most likely be non-binary. It is just easier in general to classify people based on their, phenotypical sex characteristics and say, okay, this is a man and this is a woman. As humans, we just like shoving people and animals and whatnot into categories, into groups, in order to communicate easier. For me personally, I don't think that like we will ever like abolish the idea of gender because of these things. So I was pretending to like and do certain things because that is like expected of me because I am a man and I have to be a man. And I had like a phase where I was like overcompensating. I tried to be like hyper masculine in order to, I don't know, just like, maybe I just like need to grow out of this phase in order to like accept myself as a man. But that made me like incredibly depressed. It made me really sad. I was like, okay, I just want to be a woman. But then it's like, I'm just like moving from one costume to another. So if I want to be a woman, pink has to be my favorite color. I need to sound like this. I need to talk like this. In order to be a woman, I need to put on my t-shirt first before my pants or whatnot, right? I'm just going to give you some needless gender dysphoria real quick by telling you that apparently this is how all women, no exceptions, all women take off their shirts like this, and all guys, no exceptions, are taking off their shirts like that. That's how you can tell if you're a man or a woman. So dumb. Yeah, and that exists with many things. It's also like the way that you look at your nails or some shit, right? Like if you have your hand like this and you look at your nails, this way, that is how women do it. If you flip your hand upside down and you look at your nails that way, then that's how guys do it.
Go.
That is how guys do it. Just doesn't make any sense to believe that there's like some biological thing inside of your brain that like changes the way that you, I don't know, put on a shirt or like, I don't know, sit on the toilet or whatnot. It's crazy. It's crazy. But that's happening, right? People tell you that, you know, in order to be a man, you gotta do these like pathetic, embarrassing things, because if you fall out of it, then you're getting ridiculed or whatnot. But yeah, so I was basically like, okay, this is just a costume. I'm pretending. I don't actually like this stuff, right? I just want to paint my nails and whatnot. But then I wanted to transition. So I was like, okay, so I have to do things the way that women do it in order to, you know, get HRT, that my therapist telling me that I'm valid enough in order to start transitioning and shit like that, right? And, it's a tweet about wiping. Real men don't wipe. I was like, okay, I need to do like these stupid things. I gotta wear makeup. I gotta, you know, shave all my body hair. And I gotta, a lot of like Eurocentric beauty standards and expectations and whatnot. I gotta learn how to talk like a woman. I need to use like need to be around more women in order to like get the vocabulary and usage of like cadence and whatnot. But I'm German, so we are really monotone. It was basically like, okay, in order for me to be a woman, I need to like fulfill this other, like I need to swap out the costume that I was wearing with like the woman costume. And I was basically just like restricting to myself to things exclusively that were being perceived as feminine, because any form of like masculinity gave me gender dysphoria. But it weren't like actual things that I, you know, necessarily enjoyed doing. Also, like I'm just doing things that may be gendered by society that literally shouldn't be gendered by society. And, you know, if you enjoy doing something, you should just do it. You know, me being able to, you know, get into the women's section when it comes to like shampoo and whatnot. I was always like, when it comes to like hair stuff, I was always wearing like the women's shampoo because they were just better for my hair. But like when it comes to like scents and whatnot, I didn't restrict myself to like the X body wash that smells like gym bros, but instead just like flowery stuff and so on. But like if you're a guy, like you're not less of a guy if you smell like a mango. That's like saying you're not a man if the face cream that you're using, if you're even using it, if you're not scared of being perceived as too feminine by taking care of your skin, the face cream that you're using is not explicitly stating that it's for men. Stupid, unnecessary gendering when it comes to even like Monster. Monster Energy is set to release a new female-focused energy drink called Flirt with 4 flavors. You know, it's for women because it has a flower on it instead of like the Monster hardcore gamer drink. I read Vibrant Energy and I thought it said Valorant Energy. I'm so cooked. I'm so cooked. But yeah, it's so stupid. It's so unnecessary. Like, are we for real? Why are we needlessly gendering soft drinks and energy drinks? It's so unnecessary. So it's like Monster Energy is already female-focused energy drink. Who are these for? For the females. They're going to like scan you at the counter and like ask for your female identification. But anyway, so I was like, okay, am I doing certain things because that is what is expected of me in order to be perceived as a woman in this like unnecessarily gendered society in this sense? Or am I generally just enjoying doing certain things, right? There are a lot of women who don't want to wear dresses. You can wear a skirt and still be a guy. But there are a lot of people who restrict themselves to things. You know, this capitalistic society tells them that, you know, they have to like it. And they're telling you, okay, in order to be a man, this is what you have to like. This is how you have to behave. You gotta be interested in sports and, you know, just guy stuff. Monster trucks, rawr. Roman Empire, rawr. Video games. How unnecessarily the gender the video games are. You know, the fact that there are still guys out there being like, well, women only play video games like Stardew Valley and Sims. They don't play like FPS games. They should like stay out of that. When they play Overwatch, they only play support. That's the women role. Tanks are for men. They are the leaders. They are the ones in charge. So it's just like crazy to me. And obviously a lot of like, you know, when you like share your experience as like a trans woman, you're like, well, I do not feel comfortable with like being a man because it's not my gender identity. I have trouble with my phenotype, with my male anatomy. A lot of transphobic people, or to be fair, like a lot of cis people in general, because they can't relate with you being trans, like they can't relate with gender dysphoria in that sense. They can relate to the fact that like, well, you know that there are guys who just enjoy doing feminine stuff. It doesn't change that they are still, you know, men. It's like, yeah, that's true. But the fact that I do not enjoy guy stuff, or things that are being perceived as guy stuff, doesn't impact my gender identity. Like my gender identity is still that of like a woman. I still know that I have distress because of going through male puberty. This is not because I was told I have to like the color blue when I like the color pink. It contributes to it because you're actively being denied certain things that affirm your gender identity and give you gender euphoria and whatnot, and they're being substituted with things that are causing you more dysphoria, more distress, because the world keeps telling you that you're something that you're literally not. You know, it's like also what a lot of TERFs say, that like, oh, they weren't comfortable with like what they had to experience because of the fact that they're born female and they got like shamed for their womanhood, and that is like obviously the same how it is for trans men, but it's not. It's not. I strongly believe that there are like neurological reasons why trans people exist, and it is a intersex condition of the brain, and it's much easier to just change the body than to like rewire the brain. Like conversion therapy doesn't work. And we also know from like cruel experiments, right? I also talked about like John Money, that you can't socialize and gaslight a young boy to believing that he is a girl, no matter how abusive you are. And like transphobes are completely like drawing the wrong conclusions out of it in order to like weaponize it against trans people. And I called that out, and now I'm being like labeled as someone who like defends John Money, when I'm literally saying, hey, he had a hypothesis that gender is just like something that's like learned behavior, and you can like change that, and you can condition someone to be a certain way, which, you know, doesn't work. Conversion therapy like this doesn't work. And this, you know, proves trans people right, in the sense that you cannot turn a cis kid trans and you can't turn a trans kid cis through social conditioning. You can traumatize them into like shutting down and, you know, being depressed and numb and disassociating. But that isn't really like, you know, changing who they are. This Neuro software. I gotta draw more furry stuff. I worked at Blizzard for 7 years. I think that a lot of cis people can like relate to the idea that like they are being taught how to act a certain way, and that they have to like restrict themselves and they aren't able to like do certain things, which also causes like a lot of distress when they see trans people like actually breaking these gender norms that they've been like indoctrinated and conditioned to, you know, fulfill. And a lot of it turns into like anger and resentment. But yeah, it's not entirely the trans experience, right? So if I'm a feminine dude, I'm a girl, and if I'm a trans girl, I'm a dude. They make no sense. Yeah, exactly. Because femininity is seen as like, you know, degrading. And if you're a guy, you're like on top of the food chain, right? You're on top. And if they label you a woman, they are degrading you. It is an insult. If you come out as a trans woman, now calling you a woman, calling you a girl, is no longer an insult. It is not degrading, it is affirming. And they can't have that.